Hello, this is Shalmer Steinberg, and today I'm going to be talking about how to use text and text styles in our drawings. So I've got a PowerPoint pulled up here and then an AutoCAD window as well, and I will go back and forth between them. So when we're talking about text, we are talking about being able to put annotative text objects into our drawings. And when we do that, we generally want to put them in at a size that is going to allow us to print them out on paper so that they show up at 1/8 of an inch, typically in our paper space. So the commands for text, if you type style, it will take you automatically into the text style manager. The other way of getting into that is to go to the annotate tab, and next to text there's this little arrow right here, and that's going to take you into the text style manager. So for text styles, what we're talking about is setting up a style that has a font associated with it, and whether you want that to be regular or bold or italic, if you want it to print upside down, backwards, or vertically. The only fonts that will print vertically will be fonts that end in an SHX, so .shx like bold or CDM, and there's a dim one and a few others, and that's because those are shape fonts and they are able to carry extra information. For example, if I click on this one, you'll see that vertical becomes an option for it and you can print vertically. But the standard text fonts like Arial, etc., would not normally do that. So we have one for Arial. We're going to create a secondary one just for practice here that is going to be Stylus, which we would use if we were doing something in an architectural project. And so it's Stylus BT, so I'm going to pick that as my font. But actually I want to do that not in Arial, so I'm going to cancel what I just did. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to create a new one. That's the one that I'm going to do Stylus. And I'll say OK. And you see that's the one that's highlighted now. And then I can go in and pick the font that I want. And I always go too far down. There it is. And this is one of the ones that can go upside down or backwards, but not vertically. It is a sans serif font, meaning it doesn't have the little feet or anything after the letters. We're going to leave it Roman style, which means solid letters. We're going to leave the height the default height. We could set a specific height if we want to at this point, but we're going to leave it default and change the whole drawing at once if we need to. The width factor refers to how wide the letters are. This is something that you can change, but it does not affect them proportionally. So it's not just to make a letter bigger, that would be changing the scale or the height. If you change the width factor, what you're going to get is letters that are just wider. And after a certain point, they stop looking like letters and start looking like just random lines put together. So unless you need it for specific signage, or if you need it in order to fit letters within a certain area, we generally leave the width factor at 1. Sorry. And then the oblique angle you could use if you want to cause your letters to be angled at a certain amount. So giving them an italic look, for example. But again, we're going to leave that standardized, and we'll say apply. I'm not going to set that one current because I want Arial to be set current. And then I'm going to close. So my current text style is Arial. Now what we need to talk about is the two main different kinds of text. So there's single line text as shown here, and multi-line text, which is typically the standard most of the time now. Single line or D-text used to be what was standard, and what single line text does is allow you to create a single line with very simple editing. So it allows you to control justification, so whether it's center, left, right, or top, middle, bottom. It allows you to control the height of the text, the angle that the text is coming in at, and you can pick a style, so from one of those styles that you've already created, or the standard style. Any text that you create in this, even if you do hit enter and create a second line, each one will be treated as a separate object, so only one single line of text will be treated as a single thing for purposes of editing. Multi-line text, on the other hand, is used for bigger chunks of text or things that need really specific style. And when you use multi-line text or mText, you're going to get an actual kind of mini word processor that pops open. and that's going to give you more options as far as controlling things like bold, italics, etc. There's a mini spell check on it, which you can also access by typing spell, and some other things, which I'll show you in just a second. And when you do this, no matter how many lines you type, they will all be considered one object and move as one and scale as one. And then the final, then there's edit, so you can type ed or dd edit, or the newer, faster way is just to double-click on the text that you want to edit, and then it'll open up an editing box for it. And then the final one is text along an arc, and this is really nice because you can have an arc and have your text spaced evenly along that arc. So it's great for making signs around a logo, or for putting markings on, say, a metal hub that tell you which direction to turn something, etc. And it aligns them nicely along it and keeps them facing the right direction and so forth. So an example of the basic text font that comes as the default is this. Most people think it's pretty ugly because it's very blocky. There's no rounded corners at all. So often they'll use something like this, which is smoothed out to some degree. Might be a Romans font or Arial or something like that. And there is an SHX font, which is the shape fonts that can be changed directions of. So this is just an example of that style box that I showed you and some of the different choices you can make. And then you would name your style, whatever you are. Something that's going to help you remember what that style means. It could be the font is the most important part. It could be a height you've given it. It could be that it's bold or italicized or whatever, or some combination thereof. This shows you the difference between two of the fonts, Roman D and Roman S. So Roman D has the double letters, and then Roman S is just solid letters. And you can use annotation to change the text styles after the text is already created. So you could select your text on the screen and then go to the annotation box and pick from the styles that are there to switch it over to another one that you've already created previously. So the text editing options, if you are using the mtext command, this is what the kind of mini word processor looks like up in the ribbon. I'll show you that in the program as well. And just a reminder, while there are a lot of different options for text styles and fonts, generally in any one drawing you want to keep it as simple as possible so that it's clear and easy to view. So you'll want to use one single font throughout the entire drawing, unless you're doing signage or something where the client has asked for a specific font as part of the decoration. And for mechanical, that font would typically be Arial or Helvetica, and for architectural, it's typically going to be Stylus, or occasionally City Blueprint. Okay, so let's look at this. You see that here on the main Home tab, we have an annotation tab that gives us a shortcut to text. From the drop-down of that, you can do the multi-line text or the single-line text. You can also access them by typing mtext or dtext in the command bar. So if I do single-line text, it's going to have me specify where I want it to start, or I could type J for justify or S for style if I wanted to change the ones that were currently selected. I have Arial selected right now, and so when I click, then it's going to ask me how big I want that font to be. So typically it's going to be 0.125 or 1/8 of an inch. And then my rotation, if I want it to be horizontal left to right printing, is just going to stay 0. And then I can start typing my text, whatever it is. And when I'm done, I could hit an enter and draw a second line of text if I want to. And then an enter, and if I hit a second enter without typing anything, it's going to end that dtext command. And now when I hover over them, you can see that the two lines are two separate objects, but everything that's on the same line is considered one object under dtext. And then, as I was telling you, you could type ed, or you could simply double click on the text and it takes you back into the box where you can edit. In comparison to that is mtext, or multi-line text. And so for this one, instead of just specifying where you want the text to start, you're going to create a box that you want the text to go within. The size isn't terrifically important, although you want to make it fit within the area that you want your text to be, because you can change the size later. And then it's going to open this ribbon up here that is your text editor ribbon. So it's got the ability to change the font style or the styles, whether it's bold, italic, underlined, etc., what font it is exactly, the justification, line spacing, bullets and numbers. You can put columns, symbols. Again, you can leave the spell check turned on, and you can add things to the dictionary for that spell check. You can find and replace text already in your drawing. And there's the ruler that's showing here above your text. You can turn that off if you want to, but once you do, when you turn it back on, it doesn't look quite right. It doesn't show you the ticks anymore. Then you're going to type whatever your text is going to be, and we can go to our second line. And for this one, instead of just hitting enter to end it, it will continue just creating new lines. So I would actually do close text editor when I'm ready to end the command. And when I do that, you'll see that this is all one object. So this one, separate objects for the separate lines. This one, entire paragraphs can be considered one object as far as scaling, etc. can go. And again, you can type ED for editing or just double click into it when you're ready. All right, those are the basics of placing text in our drawings.